Right team, welcome back to another episode of the Happy to Health podcast of myself, Danny Williams, Dan Hancock and Ben Lewis. In this episode we talk about the power of social media. It's a huge topic and I talk a little bit about my own personal journey in there as well. So I hope you enjoy the episode and sit back, relax and take it all in. Hello and welcome back to the Happy to Health podcast. I'm Danny and I'm here with Dan and Ben, and today we're going to be discussing the huge topic of social media. Now, social media is a whole nother animal these days, isn't it? It used to be something that some of us had, some of our family members had Facebook, and that was it. Whereas now it underpins a lot of what we do with our work, with our personal lives. It's a huge topic. And speaking from my own personal experience, it's something that started off, I had a very distant relationship with social media when I first started using it. I'd probably post like once a month, maybe once every 2 months at that. I hardly ever used it. And then, as you know, you probably know, I got essentially handed a huge platform overnight and I had no idea how to handle it, no idea how to use it. And my relationship with social media from that point was almost reborn. And then it started off from that point really quite unhealthily. And I remember going through this like reality TV kind of time machine almost. And I came out and it felt like a lot of people had kind of an opinion of me, or they thought they knew me type thing. And for several months, actually, I used to post things because I thought that's what people wanted to see from me, rather than posting stuff that was reflective of my authentic self. And actually, looking back, that probably perpetuated a bit of a vicious cycle. I was posting things that weren't reflective of my true authentic self. And then when those postings didn't get the feedback that I thought I wanted, it made me go down that road even more. And it was really quite an unhealthy cycle that I had to break. I can now say, luckily, I'm out of that cycle. And I realized probably after about 6, 7, 8 months that wasn't sustainable. And I was making myself feel worse. Yeah. And, I'll be the first to admit, like, it wasn't right. It wasn't healthy. But I think one of the key turning points for me was when I realized that I could use my platform to actually help people. And it just came naturally, and like I didn't even realize I was doing it. I think I posted like a couple of like cooking videos in lockdown, and a few people replied to it saying like, "Oh, thank you so much for sharing it. I just tried this, and like I think maybe it was like for my family or something, and the kids loved it," or something like as simple as that. And a little light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, actually, I could post stuff that could help people. Forget what other people think of me. I could post stuff that could help people. And it sounds so simple, but the previous 8 months, 9 months, I was posting from a selfish standpoint. I was posting just to get external gratification and validation. Yeah. And even though it sometimes paid off, I'd sometimes get posts with loads of likes and loads of comments, and people might say I look great or whatever it might be. It actually deep down didn't make me feel good at all. And my relationship started off really quite unhealthily. But now I'm at a place, thank God, where I'm at a place where I feel like I've got a good relationship with social media. It's not as distant as it started off back in the day when we was using like Snapchat and whatever else, like years ago when I was still in school. But
still in school and Snapchat. Oh wait, were we?
I was in school with.
When were we in Snapchat?
That makes me feel a hell of a lot older.
I was like year 8.
I left uni when Snapchat.
I think I was in like year 8 when Snapchat was about.
Oh my God.
Ben still had blackboards with chalk when he was in school.
Yeah. But I guess a huge turning point for me was kind of being aware of my intention and being aware of why I'm using social media, and like looking myself in the mirror and saying, look, you're using social media for the wrong reasons. Stop it. So I guess if I was to throw a question to either of you two guys, how do you know that you're using social media for the reason that you think you're using it for? Because I think a lot of us actually kid ourselves. I kidded myself for a while. I thought I was using it for work. I had to use social media. I had to post every day. This is my new job. But actually deep down, I was posting for external gratification for a long time, and it wasn't healthy at all. So how do you kind of make sure that you're aware of your intention when using social media? Yeah, I guess is my question.
The first thing is, like, well done. Because I don't know how you do it. Like me and Ben, I get in my own head sometimes, and I've got like 10k followers on Instagram and like 25 on Facebook, which even adding those together and timesing that by 10 is about half of viewers. So, and I think like one of the biggest reaches I've ever had on something is like 500,000. and like that's what you can have on like a day-to-day basis. So I've no idea how you deal with it. So it speaks volumes of you and the journey that you've been on. But for me, it's education. It's being aware of different types of motivations to post. So the same as we speak to a lot of our coaches within the fitness industry, you've got intrinsic motivation, you've got extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic is for the love of doing it. So I know that when I post, it's for the love of posting. I like writing, I like creating stuff, I like coming up with a concept, and I like educating. So that's intrinsic motivation for me. Extrinsic, would be maybe for likes, to a certain extent for shares, based on what you think other people want to see. And I think it's finding that kind of balance. I'll put pressure on myself to post quite regularly, but we run businesses on social media as well. So we need to think about that. And when it comes to running the business, we do need to focus on shares. We do need to focus on engagement. We do need to focus on gaining followers to a certain extent. But I think it is that key question of like, why are you posting? Like, ask yourself, if anyone's listening to this, why are you posting? Are you posting to show?
Sometimes not even posting, by the way. Sometimes just being on an app, scrolling and consuming content.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
What's the purpose? What are you gaining from it? And then on that essence, like, going and scrolling is like, that's where your creative process goes to die. Like, you can be inspired by other accounts, but when it comes to you, like if you're constantly scrolling, that's you losing one of those main aspects of the day that can allow you to be present and focus on yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just touching on what you just said there, Danny, about the continuous scrolling, like, so from my point of view, I use social media to put out what I want to put out. Do you know what I mean? We obviously run the business through your page, Dan, and you work with brands on your page, Danny. So for me, I'm probably just a regular poster on social media. So I put the stuff out there that I want to put out. So
the glory days.
Back in the day, sharing photos of bridges, which I think
that was me.
You mentioned.
That was me. Yeah. I just walk past the lake and be like, "That's a nice lake." Snap, put it on
there
Instagram.
We go.
Bring back the old Danny.
Bring back the bridges. But I think from that point of view, like that's probably the average poster on social media is to share what they want to share at that point in time. So whether that's a photo of me when we're out on the road somewhere, whether that's a photo of me and my partner, or even a photo of my dog. If anyone wants to follow me for dog photos, then feel free. But at that point in time, that's me putting out what I want people to see, okay? And I guess it then brings back around that conversation about if there are people consuming all of these posts on social media, they're only seeing the things that people want them to see. Therefore, if you're looking at that and comparing your life to what you're seeing in social media, it's that kind of false equivalence, isn't it? You only show the good bits, do you know what I mean? You don't show the vulnerabilities a lot of the time. You don't show things when you're having a shit day. You're showing all the goodness and light that goes on in your life. So for the people that are continuously scrolling and consuming that, then that could end up being quite an unhealthy relationship, which I think is what we're touching on, by consuming all the good in other people's lives and then trying to compare your life to that. I think is quite unhealthy, and I think we need to kind of recognise that people only share what they want to be sharing. If that makes sense.
And it's all to do with like what Danny you've mentioned, is like you're the sum of like the 5 people around you. And we touched on this in another podcast yesterday, like your digital life is that as well. And Danny might be different, but if I was to ask anyone at home, how many times in real life have you seen a supermodel? Or how many times in real life have you walked down the street and seen a supermodel? Never. But on your phone, your world is supermodels, right? So you think that that's what life's like, but in real life, it's not like that at all. And I think the other important thing to point out is like these apps are there to make money. These apps are there to keep you engaged and on them for as long as possible. And we've got this issue when we speak to a lot of our clients who then worry, oh, this post has only got X amount of likes and whatever. And it's like, but it's only reaching 5% of your followers. And people who are posting, maybe a picture of themselves, let's say, for example, a young female posted a picture of herself. She's got her hair done for the first time in ages, going on a night out with her friends. She feels great about herself. She wants to share it with people, potentially, but for intrinsic reasons. She wants to just post it. And then the reach on it isn't great and she hardly gets any likes on it. You can totally see how that's going to damage her health. And it could actually purely just be because someone is sitting on the toilet whilst they're on their phone, scrolling past it. and just didn't click. It could be because someone doesn't see it. And I think that's when it starts to get quite damaging.
Yeah. How do we stop ourselves falling in that trap of comparison? Because it's a huge topic in it. I think with social media, it almost induces that comparison. We just do it naturally. Like we talk about going on Instagram, scrolling, and without realizing sometimes we compare ourselves, our vulnerable selves, our imperfect selves, our flawed selves, to a flawless, perfect image of somebody else. How do we stop ourselves falling in that trap? Because it's so easy to do it. I think we're probably all guilty of doing it every now and again. Yeah. We look at someone's perfect version of reality and compare it to our imperfect version. Yeah.
So I think, again, I'm going to sound so boring. I'm going to sound like a teacher, but it comes back to education again. And if you don't mind. You
can tell all your family are like teachers and uni students, uni teachers and stuff.
I've been kicked out of school, kicked out of university, then realised if I just focused on education, things would have went well. If you don't mind, I'm going to spend 2 minutes going into what actually happens in the brain when you compare. Okay, so everyone's probably heard the quote, comparison is the thief of joy. Okay, so this actually happens in the brain. So there's a concept by a man called John DeMartini, who's a psychotherapist, and he basically says, so when you scroll through your social media feed, Danny, I'm going to use you as an example, right? If I'm scrolling through my social media feed and I don't know you, I follow you on Instagram, right? Because I think Danny's a cool guy.
Thanks, mate.
I want to,
I'm full of compliments today.
I want to, there's areas of his life that I want to mirror. If at that moment in my life, I've got low self-worth and low self-esteem, I don't become inspired by you. What actually happens is my brain starts to compare, and then I put you on a pedestal. When I put you on a pedestal, I start to become, without knowing it, subconsciously infatuated by you, right? Not like that. I start becoming...
Where's this going?
I think he's about to ask you out. I'll be honest.
I've been waiting for this big moment. So my brain starts to become subconsciously infatuated by you. Now, what happens when the brain starts to become subconsciously infatuated is that I will only see the good things in you, Danny, right? So I will see, oh, Danny's, been to Jamaica, he's traveling all over the world. Danny's got a beautiful girlfriend. Danny's got all these deals and that type of stuff, right? So when I start to exaggerate those things, and when I exaggerate those things in the brain, I then don't start to see the bad things. Like, so for example, maybe you had to go on holiday because you were really stressed and needed some time away. Maybe when you were away, you felt pressure to maybe post online and that type of stuff. And maybe within some of these deals, you feel as in, not to talk about any brand deals, but feel like maybe exploited by other people, that type of thing. That's something that, is quite common within the industry. I don't see any of those things. So that distorts my perspective. Now, not only is that bad enough from the way that I'm viewing you, it then distorts my perspective of myself. So because I've put you on a pedestal, right, hopefully everyone's following this, because I put you on a pedestal and exaggerated all the good things about you and downplayed all the bad thing, or downplayed all the negative sides, I then start to exaggerate all the bad things about myself. So I can never do this. I'm not worthy. I can't justify going on holiday, that type of thing. I exaggerate all the down things, and then I downplay all the good things about me. I can't do that. I'm not good enough. All this type of stuff. So that is how comparison works in the brain. It actually distorts our perspective. So if you think about it, if you're doing that constantly every single day, following people that you think inspire you, you are actually then potentially actively making yourself worse. Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we're still with you. No, it makes perfect sense. And it's when you explain it like that, I'm thinking as you're speaking, I've fallen into that trap before. I've definitely done that. I've put people on pedestals before, fitness influencers or people that have got amazing bodies or loads of, nice cars and success. And on the exterior, you're thinking, on the inside, my mistake. On the inside, you're thinking, that's going to take me so long to get there. Or my genetics aren't as good as him or whatever it might be. And you do compare, and it's something that we probably all fall into. So one other question I want to ask you is, how do we make sure, because there's certainly some downsides to social media and these traps that we've discussed. How do we make sure that we use social media for the right way to suit our own core beliefs? I know we spoke about before about how people might think that you spend all your life on social media because you're so active on social media. But in reality, you probably use it for 5 to 10 minutes a day to upload a post, Then you come off it, and then you don't really look at it. You don't look at the engagement, look at the likes, really. You just go back to your normal life, to your reality. So I guess the question is, how do we make sure that we've got a healthy relationship with social media and we use it for the right way?
Yeah. I think a key one is, I'll let Ben come to this as well. I think a key one is managing who you are following, because I've actively made the decision to not use it on a social basis with regards to scrolling and browsing, that type of stuff. But I'll still jump on that. I'll see what you're doing. I'll see like what you're doing, Danny, etc. Watch stories and that type of stuff. But it's a difficult one because I think a lot of it is maybe fueled by potentially boredom, or maybe people not having other things that they want to focus on. So if we've got lots of other hobbies, lots of other things that we can do, staying active, socializing, spending time with friends, spending time on doing parts of work that we enjoy, we're going to be less and less inclined to look at that stuff. Another thing that we can do is like have a little bit of a cull. We can have a social media audit, get rid of the people that don't inspire you. You know, you're scrolling through, that adds absolutely zero value to my life. Not then in a way that's against an individual, but you know, remove them, especially if it triggers you as well. That means don't do it all in one sitting, but that means over the course of maybe 1 month, 2 months, only on your feed you're going to be able to see people that inspire you and add value to you.
That's a great piece of advice. I used to do the same thing. I used to follow loads and loads of gossip pages, because when I first came out of the first reality show that I did, I would find myself in these gossip pages every now and again. There'd be news articles and random things, or there'd be people that I know in these gossip articles. So I used to follow like 10, 15 of these pages on Instagram that would literally just post gossip about celebrities and people in the public eye. And at first, I thought I was doing it because I wanted to keep an eye on if my friends got an article about them, or if something that got shared in the group chat and whatever. But I realized that they were so triggering for me. And quite often the captions or the way that they would phrase things in the post would literally just be clickbait. And then people in the comments would be like going at whoever the post is about. And it used to trigger me so much. And I would spend so long on social media, like reading the comments to see what people were saying about people close to me, or even about myself sometimes. And it just, the penny dropped one day, and I thought, I need to unfollow all these pages because they're actually doing my mental health so much damage. Like I'd be scrolling, then I'd come off it having consumed all that gossip, which in itself is toxic to some degree. And then I'd go in and be snappy at someone I care about, or I'd be driving and I'd put my foot down and I'd be speeding. And why am I speeding? Because I'm in a bad mood. And actually, unfollowing those accounts on social media then had it's like a weight off my shoulders, and I don't miss those gossip pages. Like my social media feeds are so much better off for it now. So I guess a tip for anyone listening, if you're following pages that you think might be triggering any negative behaviors that you want to eradicate, look straight to your social media and just unfollow those pages. It'll feel like a weight off your shoulders.
I've got a concept that I shared with Ben last night called selective naivety. Do you think that works for you? It's basically out of sight, out of mind. Do you think that works for you? If there is something that you do need to know, if it's something big happening in the world, someone can tell you. But then when it comes to that type of stuff, would you maybe rather not?
100%. And I'm going to tell a story now, which most people might know about, maybe not, I'm not sure. But there was one of the meme pages out there was a page called, what was it called? Archbishop of Canterbury or something like that.
Archbishop of Banterbury.
Oh, Banterbury. That's the one, sorry. There's a meme page. And there was a meme got made about me where there was a picture of me from Love Island where I look horrendous. Don't even look like myself, actually. Don't know where this picture came from. And it's side by side with Shamima Begum. The picture went viral because in these two pictures side by side, we look like we could be brother and sister. Like, it's ridiculous. And I have I'm not even trying to deny it. We look very similar in this picture. And but I'd already unfollowed all these pages. Like I said, I found them quite toxic and quite triggering. So I unfollowed all these pages months prior. And I was just getting tagged on social media, and it was getting put in my WhatsApp that people I've not spoke to in years were sending me it, just seen this. It was doing the rounds on Facebook. Like, that's when you know it's going viral, when Facebook's blowing up as well, not just Instagram. And it's what you just said then. It's out of sight, out of mind 99% of the time. And if it's important enough, I'll find out. That one, I think I was on a shoot actually. And
was that important to find out?
I mean, I found out in the end. So I was doing a shoot in central London actually, and I went literally just to a Costa across the road, like from on my lunch break. literally I crossed the road and people was like more than normal was stopping me, like you know, asking for a picture, and you can see there was like giggling afterwards, walking off after they've got their picture with me, and I'm like, oh god, it's happening. But yeah, it's one of them. 99% of the time these pages are out of sight, out of mind, and my mental health benefits from it massively. And if it's important enough, if the news is relevant enough, it'll make its way into my life as it did that day.
I think I've just thought of something as well, actually. Another great piece of advice for anyone listening to this: don't just use your social media as a platform for you to be inspired, right? So you might be sitting there thinking, who can I follow? What pages can I follow, you know, to be inspired, to get nice content, to lift my mood? What about think about what you're putting out there as well? You know, what are you putting out there that can inspire people? What are you sharing that's good news? There's a couple of pages on Instagram that I love. There's one called Tank's Good News. I think there's one called Upworthy as well. And the reason I found them was because I thought, it would be a brilliant idea if I shared like good news rather than obviously the normal news that's being shown on a day-to-day basis. I was like, this is brilliant. This is going to be a great idea. No one's doing this. Boom, Instagram, 50 pages already doing it. And pages like that are great, so we can actually be inspired by what we're watching and what we're digesting and taking in, and then share that as well.
Yeah, love that.
Rather than just, waiting on someone else to inspire you. What are you doing to inspire people?
100%. Well, I share photos of my dog. Apparently, that's inspiring to me.
That's the only reason I follow you as well.
I'm not surprised.
But Ben, just bringing it back to that whole external gratification thing we've discussed earlier. Obviously, you're posting pictures of your dog and whatever it might be. You know in your heart you're not posting those pictures for other people to then engage with those pictures.
Yeah.
And I think whether you got 0 likes or 100 likes, you're still going to post pictures of your dog.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And I think there's this hidden message there. It's when you're using social media and you're deciding what kind of content you want to put out there, have it be something that's reflective of who you are, regardless of who's going to engage with it, who likes it and comments and shares and reposts and all that kind of stuff. Because I think if you're posting stuff purely for that external engagement and that gratification, and I can speak from personal experience here, it's not going to make you happy, is it?
No, not at all. I think if you look at it as it's like a digital gallery or a digital photo album that you're showing out to the world, and have it in that sense, only things that you would want to have on your wall in the house. And that doesn't mean to say my house is just full of dog photos.
It'll be a great house, by the way. I love dogs.
There's a lot out there, but again, it just boils down to just share what you're happy sharing, and that you'll feel better for it. And again, like you said, Danny, if you don't get an engagement, so what? It's what you want to put out there. You're putting it out there because you want a record of it, or you want to share that. And if people engage with it, then great, but it's not the end of the world.
I think another couple of great pieces of advice are, don't look at, if you are putting content out there, if you're not running a business, don't bother looking at the engagement, don't bother looking at the shares, the saves, the likes, any of that type of stuff. And from a business standpoint, I do understand, looking at the analytics, but don't bother about that. And another great piece of advice for anyone is, don't take a photo a second time round. If you're on a night out or you're with friends, get that first photo. Doesn't care what you look like. Post
Are you going to take your own advice here?
Absolutely not.
Because I've been your photographer, mate.
If you are a little bit maybe self-conscious or whatever, that analysing that photo, analysing, the way that you look, your angle, all that type of stuff, it's just going to make things worse. The second that you post a photo up there and don't care about it, that's going to do so much for your mental health, because you're not caring as much what you think, you don't care about what other people think. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's a difficult thing to do, but that's a great mini challenge for anyone. Don't take a photo more than once, and let us know how you get on with it.
I like it. And you've said one word that resonates with me. Analytics. Now, you guys,
we'll welcome you all to leave now. Just hit skip, go listen to another podcast.
Look, anyone that knows me knows I'm a massive geek, right? Charts, numbers, figures, like that's me. I might even start sharing that to my socials. No, I won't. But
what, dogs and analytics?
Dogs and charts. But yeah, the reason I wanted to focus on that was, again, another tip. Has anyone seen the screen time report that you can get on your phone? Like, I used to ignore that massively, but until Kirsty, my partner, had pointed out, you're on your phone all the time. And granted, like Dan, we talk 24/7 because we need to about the business. And I used to use that as my excuse. But then when I started looking at the screen report, on my phone and realised that, well, actually, I'm talking to Dan and my mates on WhatsApp, but all my other apps like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the time spent on those is far higher than on any messaging apps that I have. So now I've made a conscious effort to actually look at that report again, because I'm a massive geek. But that is then a really tangible way to see your use of that app reduce over time. Yeah. And you might not be the geek that I am with that, but if you see your time the time reduce over time, then that's another good kind of way to look at it and say, am I actually putting my phone down a bit more? Am I spending less time scrolling? So first of all,
great advice.
We've spoken about, we're conscious about what we're putting out there, we're conscious about what we're consuming, and then I think the thing to round it off is actually monitoring the amount of time spent on these things, and there's a great report on your phone that you can access already.
Brilliant.
Love that.
Great advice.
Accountability. The numbers don't lie, do they?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just to round up the conversation, I want to talk a little bit about the future of social media. Ooh. Social media is something that has been evolving at a rapid speed for the last, 10 years or so. But recently we heard from Facebook about the launch of the Metaverse, and there's theories about how that's going to look and how that's going to evolve as well. Just a few thoughts on that and how we can kind of prepare ourselves mentally, because there's talks of it being a whole digital dimension that we could potentially be essentially living in comparison to we're just like on our phones on Instagram. There's we could have these VR sets on and just like spending hours upon hours per day, even online shops and stores in this world. How can we prepare our mental health for that and our mindset to enter that space in a positive way rather than a negative way?
Yeah.
God, yeah, it's a great question, because my first thing that I want to say is we can't. But it's no, I think no, but that means more acceptance of some things, not to then be defeatist about it, but some things are going to be a little bit out of our control.
It's incredibly exciting, by the way, and the opportunities that might come from this space and how it's going to change how business works and that kind of thing is incredibly exciting. But I'm also mindful of how people can be accessing that space for the wrong reasons and get addicted potentially.
And how's it monitored? Yeah, and it all comes down to the purpose as well. Like, what's the intentions? Like, why are people doing it? I think it is a little bit scary. Like I said, I can see the positives as well, but why don't we look at that the exact same way as I like to look at social media now, which is that it can be damaging if it's abused. But if it's used in the right ways, to connect with people from all over the world, to use it for your business, then that's great. So go in with the right intentions of using it for the right reasons that are going to personally benefit you and other people around you, and then try not to get sidetracked by all the other things, because that's a rabbit hole that you can fall into, which is, then going to become your reality as well.
Yeah. And think about it as well, like our parents, when the internet first came out, do you know what I mean? That might have been this big, scary, what is this? We're probably at that point now in our lives where the next big evolution of this thing, the internet, and we're looking at it the way our parents looked at the internet in a certain way. This is so scary. Like, what does this mean? People are going to be sucked into this digital life. And I think we're now in that position when we're looking out over the horizon to see this big kind of scary unknown coming towards us, and there's endless possibilities with it, but there's a lot of unknowns, and it's just, again, it comes back to how you manage yourself through that and the amount of time that you spend in that scenario.
Yeah, I bet it'll be fine. And we'll be like what you said, like parents, like before the internet came out, they were like terrified. They're like, oh, it's not gonna work.
Exactly.
That's never gonna trend.
I mean, it sounds like a Black Mirror episode. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm sure it won't be.
Have you anyone seen the film Ready Player One? Have you seen the film?
No, but I have seen the trailer.
Oh, if you get a chance, watch that film. If you're listening to this and you've seen that film, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of correlations, shall we say, between how the metaverse is being proposed to look, and then this film, which is essentially like living in a video game.
Wow.
And from that perspective, it's quite a scary concept, but also an exciting one at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think we've got another film to watch when we're on the road again.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, I think that wraps up the conversation. Dan, Ben, thanks for today. Thanks for the conversation. It's been great. Hopefully the listeners can get some real value from that. You've both shared some really great pieces of advice, and I'm sure people will take it and apply it in their everyday lives. But from us at Happy to Health, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Wow, what a conversation. That was really, really powerful. I hope you guys found some value from that. If you did, don't forget to follow us at the Happy to Health podcast. All the support is greatly appreciated. So a like, a follow, a share to your story, and a review would be absolutely amazing. We might have to revisit that because that was a really strong conversation. So yeah, see you in the next one.